Welcome back to Andersen Acres. We are here in the kitchen again, and today we're going to make blueberry swirl bagels. Now, you have to do the dough a little bit differently in that you cannot add all of your ingredients at once. The blueberries will get all smushed up no matter how you mix your dough. So what we're going to do is put most of our ingredients in the bread pan, let the bread pan turn our ingredients into dough, go through their first rise, then we will come back and add the final ingredient. So let's get started. You are going to want 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. There we go. You're going to want 1 teaspoon of salt. It doesn't matter what kind of salt, kosher or sea salt, doesn't matter. I'm using just a plain table salt. It really does not matter. You are going to want about a tablespoon or so of butter. I forgot my knife. I'm back. Here's my butter. So you're going to want about a tablespoon or so, up to 2 tablespoons if you like, of butter. Okay. We are going to want 1 cup of water. There we are. 3 cups of white all-purpose flour, bread flour, whatever you normally use to make bread. There we go. And a heaping teaspoon of yeast. Now I'm using bread machine yeast. You can use quick rise or traditional, depending on what you have and your method for making your dough. So if you're doing this dough by hand, you would use a traditional and dissolve it, or just use a quick rise and skip that step. Quick rise and bread machine yeast do not have to be dissolved. So let's pop this in the bread maker, come back in about, an hour and a half when I have a dough, then we'll turn it into a blueberry dough. But we're not doing that right now because the blueberries will get squished in the bread maker. So we'll be back in an hour and a half. All right, here we go. Our dough is ready. So what you want to do is have a very light coating of flour on your surface so your dough doesn't stick too much and so your blueberries don't get everywhere. So we don't have any blueberries right now. What you want to do is kind of flatten your dough out a little bit. Take a 1/2 cup scoop. Get yourself a nice big scoop of frozen blueberries. Don't use fresh. You definitely want to use frozen in this. Okay, get your frozen blueberries, put them on your dough, and now we're going to knead them in. So first, gather your dough up like so to kind of trap them in the middle. This one in there too. Trap them in the middle. Now take any jewelry off so you don't stain your jewelry, because this may stain your hands a little bit. And just knead your dough gently. Okay, gently. So you see the blueberries are starting to come through here. So then we're actually going to change the way we knead so they don't come out. And you'll notice you're starting to get swirling of the blueberry juice, but gently. You don't want to squish your blueberries. Gently. Okay, knead your dough to kind of spread them out. Spread them out, spread them out. Flip and keep going. Okay, if your dough's really sticky, pick up some more flour. It'll get a little stickier as you go because of the blueberry juice. Okay. Here we go. We're going to add a little more flour, just because the dough does get stickier as you go. Okay. Flat. That's why I like these silicone mats. They don't stick as badly as another surface might. So, go this way. So if you're noticing your dough gets stickier as you go, that's really, really normal. Okay? So check and make sure your blueberries are distributing pretty well. I need some more over here, so we're just gonna add a little more flour and kind of push around. Knead a little bit more. Okay. So our blueberries are pretty well distributed. So now what you want to do is get yourself either a dough cutter or a knife. It doesn't matter. I'm using a knife because my dough cutter's busy. And divide the dough into how many chunks you want. So I'm going to do 8 bagels. If you want to do 12 bagels, just divide it into 12. So the bigger your bagels are, the fewer you'll have. Okay? And then take each group of dough, stick those blueberries inside. There we go. Take this blue, here we go. Just like that. Okay. Now it's going to get messy, and that's okay. There we go. And we have a blueberry running away. Come back. Okay. So now we're going to take these, divide them into 2. And then I'm going to divide each of these into 2. Okay, so I have 8, and a lot of flour is a good thing here. Okay, it's a good thing. So take each of your 8, or 12, or however many you're making, and get those blueberries inside. Okay, and yes, your hands will get stained with blueberry. That's okay. Get those blueberries inside. Okay, shove them all in there. There we go. Again, shove them all in there. Okay. You want to trap those blueberries so they're not rolling all over the place, because that's irritating. Okay, this blueberry goes inside this guy. So you just want to trap the blueberries inside your guys. See, if I don't, they'll roll all over the place. So trap them inside. There. And these are delicious as a breakfast, but they're also delicious any time of the day if you like blueberries. But remember, frozen blueberries, not fresh. Fresh will just squish the second you start kneading the dough. There we go. And we got an escaping blueberry. So do the best you can to get those blueberries inside. This one has a lot of blueberries. Okay, there we go. Good enough. Then you want to take your balls. I don't like using a bagel cutter for these because they do have the blueberries. So go inside to separate. Kind of try to keep your blueberries contained. See, this one, the blueberries really want to escape. So do your best. I mean, if you can't, that's fine. Ooh, blueberries escaping. That happens. Don't worry about it. So, once you do that, and you have a couple more blueberries escape, because that's fun, you want to set these aside on a cookie sheet, okay? Non-stick preferably. All right, so sprinkle them with flour if you need to, right? You can sprinkle them with flour a little bit more if you need to. And then you just keep going. I'm not going to make you watch shaping all of them. These are a little bit finicky because they have blueberries. So take your time, go carefully, have a little flour available so you can get these guys in the flour and handle them a little bit easier. But you just keep going, okay? So shape all of them. Then you're going to let them rest for about half an hour, 20 to 30 minutes. And after that, we'll come back and we'll do our next step. All right, so while you're waiting for your bagels to rise a little bit, not a ton, while you're waiting for them to rise, you want to boil a small pot of water, small to medium-sized saucepan, nothing too big. And when that comes to a rolling boil, you want to add 1 to 2 tablespoons of honey. Okay, it can be creamed honey or regular honey. It doesn't really matter. It's just honey. It's fine. So get that honey dissolved in your boiling water. Move that spoon around till all the honey dissolves off it. Okay, won't need this spoon anymore. Now what you're going to do is you're going to boil your bagels. So I'm going to pick up a bagel, pop them in the water. You're going to boil a bagel for 30 seconds to 1 minute per side. And yes, all that excess flour does come off in the water. That's fine. You're discarding the water anyway. So 30 seconds to a minute per side. Then 30 seconds or a minute, flip it over. And while we're waiting for that, you want to preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. 375, because after these are boiled, they have to be baked. Okay, flip that over. And if you lose a blueberry or two, don't worry about it. You have plenty. You have plenty of blueberries. Don't worry about that. So if a blueberry or two decides to escape, just discard it later. It doesn't matter. So there we go. Flip him back over. Remember which is your bottom side. Use a slotted spoon of some type to remove your bagels from the water, just so you don't damage them. And you just go one at a time. I do prefer to go one at a time, not more than that. And then we're going to bake them up. All right, I'm not going to make you watch me boil all 8 because it's really boring. But 30 seconds to a minute on the one side, flip it, 30 seconds to a minute on the other. Then we'll come back and we will coat them with egg. Don't forget to preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Alright, so our bagels have now been fully boiled. Our water's still boiling a bit even though I've turned it off. You'll notice the water's really, really dark. That's pretty normal because remember you're putting blueberries into the boiling water. So the water will first start to turn a little bit purpley gray and then it'll darken to around this color. That's pretty normal. So you may have a few blueberries that escaped. So just scoop them up with your slotted spoon. Throw them in the garbage. Okay, so we're just going to chuck those into the garbage. Discard your water. You're done with it now. You don't need this water. So we'll just pour this water out in the sink. Sorry for the big sound of water, but we want to get rid of that right away. Now you're left with your bagels. So what you want to do is you want to take an egg, just crack an egg into a bowl, doesn't matter. Swirl that up with your basting brush and then lightly coat your bagels. Nice light coat. It just gives them a nice shiny crust, makes them yummy. Remember your oven is preheated to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. So don't worry too much if you have a few bagels that ended up a little bit misshapen, like this guy that I'm putting egg on right now. He's not perfect. Don't worry about that. That happens sometimes with blueberry bagels because remember you do have blueberries in there, and as the dough expands and contracts in the water, sometimes your bagels can end up a little bit misshapen. But it's not a big deal. They're still delicious. Don't worry about that. Even if they look a little misshapen, just eat those ones first. No one will notice. Don't worry about it. So now we're going to put these in the oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit, and they're going to bake for 20 minutes. At the end of that 20 minutes, we will let them cool a few minutes, then we'll come back and take a look at them. And there you have it. These are our Blueberry Swirl Bagels. They bake for 20 to 25 minutes at 375 degrees Fahrenheit, or they bake until they look good to you. Remember, you can bake them a little longer if you like a darker bagel. You can bake them just a little bit less if you like a lighter bagel as well. So keep an eye on them and bake them until they look good to you. So that's about it for us here at Andersen Acres. I hope you've enjoyed making Blueberry Swirl Bagels with us, and I do hope you'll give these a try. They're a great breakfast treat, or really anytime you're craving a blueberry bagel. We'll see you tomorrow.